Welcome to this edition of Weather to Watch. It is late April now, the 25th of April to be precise, and we got severe weather outlooks all over the place. Let's dive into it. Happy Friday, everyone. The last Friday in the month of April, and the weather map across the country, or at least the satellite visible image, is quite interesting, actually. There's all kinds of little things going on here, different types of cloud formations. We see combinations of thunderstorms erupting, frontal boundaries, little showers and thunderstorms forming along frontal boundaries, clouds coming in behind fronts, and a new weather system coming ashore in the western U.S. So all kinds of things to talk about here. Having said that, the general pattern is still kind of weak. So there's nothing real earth-shaking going on, nothing that is really very dynamic. Like in the winter and the spring, we get these deep low pressure systems. At least for the time being, that doesn't exist on the map. Here's the 500 millibar flow, and again, just to highlight, the winds flow along these channels like this. So there are a couple of things going on here and there. There's a weak trough right here, a weak one right here, and then a rather noticeable large increase in the curvature and a low pressure center off the coast of Oregon and California. That's the next storm system that's coming in, and that will generate a lot of severe weather and also generate more heavy rain. But for now, let's take a look at some hot spots, if you want to call them that, across the country. Probably West Texas is the most interesting place, but let's hop around a little bit. Here's a surface weather map. We have this broad area of low pressure here from Missouri on up into Michigan, and the typical arrangement of cool front here and warm front, although this is marked as stationary. Oftentimes stationary is a sort of a temporary condition, or may only occur along a portion of a frontal zone. I think in general this is probably considered to be stationary, or maybe slightly moving north as a warm front. The air out ahead of this is in the 70s and fairly moist too. Behind it we get a rush of wind coming in out of the north and eventually out of the northeast across parts of Kansas. And then this area right here is a little wave along the front in the panhandle of Texas. And there's a dry line down there too, and we'll take a look at that here in a minute. That's probably the most active weather in the U.S. presently. Take a look at a satellite loop for that generally same area. So here's the front, and you can see a smattering of showers and a couple of rumbles of thunder here in southern Missouri. Same for here up in Illinois. Otherwise, behind the front, we have this stratus deck. Actually, it kind of covers all this area here with some stratocumulus clouds back here, and then some high clouds rushing over the top of that. So it's a very interesting weather pattern. Thunderstorms are also erupting in Texas down here, and we'll take a closer look at those right now. So here is the radar and some of the advisories. This all out here, by the way, is a red flag warning for outdoor burning. But this right here in yellow is a tornado watch in almost the exact same area as yesterday's tornado watch. Flood watch extends out of that, and then a severe thunderstorm watch closer down around from Midland on westward, not quite to El Paso. And you can see some of these thunderstorms popping up here in the panhandle with a pretty high tornado potential. Cover that here in just a minute. But I do want to look at the station plots, the observations down here in Texas. What's interesting is that the winds are all out of the east or southeast and gusting up in some cases over 31 miles per hour. And so this is a very dynamic system and setup for tornado development, but in a very localized area. The upper level winds are not quite cooperating in terms of organizing a lot of severe weather, but they have improved as we've gone through this day. So they've actually upgraded the advisory area, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. But when you have a dew point of like Abilene, 77 over 64, that's not too bad for severe weather. But some of these are showing up as, well, here's a 12-degree spread here. You want these to be lower spreads, and they do that at night, so the temperatures will cool, but these dew points are more absolute. They actually have to be blown in horizontally, or the air has to converge for these values to go up or down. So when we get a little bit of cooling at night, as long as the air remains unstable, this becomes a really good breeding ground for severe weather, and in particular for tornadic thunderstorms. This is the outlook for that area. This has been upgraded all day today, so now we're in the level 3 here from Lubbock onto the northwest for severe weather in all modes. with a large area of what we used to call slight risk. That's the level 2 through much of the west part of Texas, all the way almost down to the river. And there's also a tornado threat that goes with this, which has been upgraded again today. It started out 2 a couple of days ago, went up to 5, and now we have a 10% risk in this area right around Lubbock, Texas, and in the surrounding area. So everybody's watching that with a lot of interest down there. Meanwhile, that storm, remember that one I talked about out west? The first inroads of what it's going to cause problem-wise for severe weather is this outlook for Sunday, where they have gone ahead and pulled the trigger on a slight risk, the 2 out of 5, which I thought they would. In fact, I thought it would be more down here, and in fact, it might be with subsequent days. Remember, when the Storm Prediction Center issues those long-range forecasts, they have a certain criteria that a certain percentage of the area has to be affected. They're not signing off and saying that there's not going to be any severe weather usually. And in fact, in their comments, they'll say predictability is low or something to that effect. So it's natural for these to get upgraded as you get closer to the event. So anyway, Nebraska has probably the best low-level wind field for tornadoes in that setup, but all the way up and down as the upper-level winds increase out of the southwest, this is going to be a threat area. I'm looking at the SIP severe weather probabilities for Sunday. I actually back this up quite a bit into Wyoming, parts of northwest Colorado, and western North Dakota, and also Nebraska down here in the dry line area. There's seems to be a little spike as well. So that's something you want to watch out for. And if we look at the learning model from Colorado State University, it puts the tornado probability at its highest right in here. So that's interesting as well. So the outlook is for here, but they have tornado probabilities going all the way down the length of Kansas through Dodge, all the way to the Oklahoma-Texas border. So it's worth watching, and I think that as we get closer to the event, the dynamics are going to get better. There was some concern about there being too much of a capping inversion. Everything I'm looking at doesn't say it's going to be very widespread. In fact, it may be just enough capping to keep isolated thunderstorms going, which is the discrete part that usually makes the storms a little bit more energetic and dangerous, not as widespread, but a little more dangerous. Now, let's take a look at Monday as that storm really begins to lift out into the plains. We've got this large area of severe weather in the 15 or in the 30% risk area, which for this many days out is saying something. So from Minneapolis and my temporary stomping ground of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, all the way down, including all of Iowa, all the way down to around Chanute, Kansas, just stopping shy of Wichita, all in that high 30% chance of severe weather of any type within a 25-mile radius. And a large area of 15 surrounding that. So that's going to be a big outbreak right there on Monday. And then on Tuesday, the entire thing shifts and becomes elongated, and you might suspect a front's involved with that, and you'd be right. So we'll just get various modes of severe weather occurring up and down this front on Tuesday. And again, there'll probably be room to put a higher probability or pockets in that outlook once we get closer to the event. I did want to go over these NIU outlooks again. So you're just looking for supercells, and I finally got the dates right as opposed to 2 days ago when I did this. April 23rd to the 1st, we have a high probability of severe weather. I really just reviewed that period, basically, and even a little bit beyond. And then we go ahead to May 2nd through May 8th. This looks like a dry line type of feature that's going on, getting deeper into May. Not so much east of there. And then it kind of sinks in the middle of May more toward the dry line Texas, Oklahoma panhandle area type of event. And if you look at the climatology for the last 30 years, 82 through 11 actually is the last time this was updated. I wonder if they have a greater update than that, but it hasn't changed all that much. So if you're looking at where severe weather generally happens, this happened to be calculated on April 22nd. No surprise that this area right here gets the highest probability for severe weather. We're actually seeing it in this time period a little bit further back, which is kind of funny because earlier in March and early April, we had all that severe weather here when the climatology would have put it down here. So I'm not sure the climatology is doing us much good so far this season. But anyway, it does move, and usually Oklahoma and North Texas sees the highest probability of severe weather. Heavy downpours continue to be an issue. For the next 3 days, this stalled out front will cause the heaviest precipitation to occur. And we're talking about 1.5 inches to maybe 2 inches of rain from Oklahoma City down into the southwestern portion of Oklahoma. And then this frontal zone just kind of generally tweaks out some rain in this area here, but not real impressive. But then as we go and look at the entire 7-day accumulation for the next 7 days, so southern Missouri, northwest Arkansas, much of eastern Oklahoma is in an area which is about 3 to 5 inches of rain, it looks like. So, as I was saying in the last update, that area did get a lot of rain during that last episode, but this will give ample time for at least the water to drain away and drain off a little bit. So, the last thing we'll look at is the 500 millibar flow tonight. We'll take a look at the GFS, the Global Forecast System, 500 millibar flow. We could also look at the Euro. I'll just stick to one model here today. And this is the way it looks here today, late this afternoon, with that 500 millibar nose of jet stream winds blowing in. That's this feature right in here. And that's what's going to continue to dominate the forecast for the next several days. So this is valid today. Actually from this morning. So let's take a look and let's go to tomorrow morning. Saturday morning, you can see this feature is moving into Wyoming and Colorado. The actual bowling ball, so to speak, is located right there. Don't do that. It's located right there. So that's the center of the low pressure. So the upper level winds are increasing across much of the area. Notice that there's a little bit of a split in the flow right here, and that's going to be important for this area. Not so much on Saturday, maybe, although I think there will be some risk involved with that, but getting into Sunday especially. So let's go. This is Saturday in the evening. So the flow actually consolidates a little bit. I'll just toggle that back and forth, see how that kind of rolls around a little bit. It's not in any particular hurry to move anywhere. And then we go to Sunday. That's about noon on Sunday. And this is kind of what I'm referring to. Notice how the winds, I wish you would stop doing that, kind of diverge a little bit out like that. So this is an enhanced area of lift. Remember, that's where that slight risk was up there in Nebraska that I'm speculating will be extended more to like that on Sunday. Yeah, I think that's probably going to happen. This is just one model, by the way. But we'll look at the, go further out here. And this is in the evening on Sunday, so stronger winds really infringe upon that. And yeah, in particular, it does look like that area right there is in the favored quadrant of the jet streak. But anything along the dry line here could technically go as long as the cap isn't too strong. And like I said earlier, I don't think it is. Now, let's go ahead and just move this a little bit further. So this is Monday around noon right here. This is the reason why this enhanced area, this 30% risk area is up in Minnesota and Iowa. You can see a very strong jet stream flow. Now, this particular layout is interesting because the winds are basically kind of going like that, and there isn't, this is a positively tilted trough, and it's like this, as opposed to a negatively tilted trough, which is like this. So this is not particularly dynamic for forcing of low pressure areas, which would really get those low level winds spinning. But whenever you put springtime air underneath something like this, you're going to get some severe weather. There's no doubt about it. So that's the outlook for Monday, and that risk, as you recall, extended all the way down into here. So that's going to be an interesting day for many who are involved. And then we'll just do one more thing here and move ahead to, this is Tuesday. You remember there was a broad forecast. This is about midday Tuesday. Remember that broad forecast was just something like this. It just went all the way up and down the length of the front. And yeah, and that still holds. It looks like the worst of it would be in the northeast where the stronger jet stream winds are. And notice there's another little wave down here. So this will impact Texas probably not on Tuesday, but Wednesday, Thursday time frame. So it is the season for a lot of severe weather across the central U.S. to be sure. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.